right, so we're going to jump on and talk a little bit about Lane Kiffin. Yeah, that's right, Lane Kiffin. We're going to talk about other teams. No, this really does pertain to Oklahoma in some regard. But Lane Kiffin, he came out and made a statement. And a lot of people are kind of taking this maybe a little bit out of context, a little bit, maybe not out of context, but yeah, I'm trying to think here, if what's the right words here? People are maybe misconstruing or misunderstanding what I believe Lane Kiffin is saying here. So he says, yeah, Oklahoma's disappointing. We don't have anything in common with them or fans, so that doesn't make any sense at all. So, and it's more about the latter part of that too, of that statement. And I'll pull it up here on my other screen just so I can read the entirety of that statement. He says, yeah, Oklahoma is really disappointing. So for the context of this is that Oklahoma, sorry, I should have led off with this. Oklahoma now gets Texas, obviously, Missouri, and Ole Miss. Ole Miss was the one. Those are the three rivals, I guess you can call them. They're the three teams that they're going to face every year for the next 4 years. And Ole Miss really was kind of the big question mark for a lot of Oklahoma fans, for a lot of Oklahoma media people, that we were sitting here kind of wondering, why Ole Miss? Why was that the team that got put on the schedule? Because we were thinking LSU, that one makes a little bit of sense. Arkansas would have made quite a bit of sense. Even like Texas A&M, I think, was thrown in there. That would have made some sense. And there's even other teams like Florida that I think could have made sense, or Tennessee would have made a lot of sense. There was plenty of other teams. Ole Miss was not one of them that I thought was going to be thrown on the schedule for Oklahoma. And I think a lot of people thought that. A lot of people were kind of caught off guard with that. And so I thought that was kind of weird. It was just odd. But anyways, his statement about that was, yeah, Oklahoma's really disappointing. We don't have anything in common with them or our fans, so that doesn't really make any sense at all. And that wasn't really the part that people had some concerns with, but he says, and so that's unfortunate with so many great teams that we've played for a long time here, especially from our SEC West years, so that's unfortunate. And a lot of people are saying, what, you're not going to consider Oklahoma as a great team? Do you not understand who Oklahoma is? And a lot of people kind of freaking out about this statement here. And honestly, I agree with Lane Kiffin. I don't know why we'd be matched up. We really don't have anything in common with Ole Miss. We have a winning tradition at Oklahoma, and Ole Miss doesn't. No, I'm just teasing. No, really, though, there isn't a whole lot that Oklahoma and Ole Miss, I believe last year, like how many times have they played against each other? What kind of history is really between Ole Miss and Oklahoma? There really is none. What kind of rivalry is there between Ole Miss and Oklahoma? There's not really anything there. And I think my interpretation of how I take Lane Kiffin's second part of the statement is that there's so many great teams that they've played for a long time here in the SEC, especially from the West years whenever there was divisions. I think what he's saying is that there's an actual history between Ole Miss and other teams. Why would we have Oklahoma? Oklahoma has some history with teams like Florida or Texas A&M or who was some others? Tennessee. There's something there right now, at least. There's something there with Oklahoma and plenty of other teams. Ole Miss doesn't make any sense, and I'm not sure who else Ole Miss would have rathered over Oklahoma. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it that far, but I agree with Lane Kiffin and what he's saying here overall. And I don't think he's talking down about Oklahoma, that he thinks Oklahoma's not a great team, that Oklahoma's no good, anything like that. I just think that he just thinks that there's other great teams with chemistry between Ole Miss, and so hopefully that makes sense. But no, I really don't think that this is anything for Oklahoma fans to maybe take, maybe over the top or anything. I don't think this is anything that we should be upset about. I think Lane Kiffin has every right to be like, why Oklahoma? I'm not really sure what was there. Like, I kind of wanted to play one of these other teams that we have some history with. And I suppose a lot of teams could feel that way about Oklahoma. But again, like I said, there's other teams that have some sort of history with Oklahoma. Again, right now, I think even South Carolina might be able to be in that group with teams just because of Shane Beamer and the history there. I think of a lot of other teams, and Ole Miss would have been pretty far down there. I think Ole Miss would have been with teams like, I don't think Georgia and Oklahoma really have anything there. Vanderbilt wouldn't have had anything with Oklahoma. I know Mark Stoops is related to the Stoops and all that, but there's not really anything with Kentucky and Oklahoma, so that wouldn't have made much sense. There's just a lot of these teams that wouldn't have made sense. Mississippi State really wouldn't make a whole lot of sense other than Jeff Lebby, I suppose. So again, Ole Miss kind of fits in that group of teams that it just doesn't make sense. I don't see it. I'm not really sure what the schedule makers were thinking when adding Ole Miss and Oklahoma. I don't see it. And so I agree with Lane Kiffin. Now, if he did mean disrespect, all right, time to strap on the gloves. Sorry for hitting my mic there, but you're getting me a little too excited there. If you did mean something malicious by that, Lane, but and I don't think it's any kind of trolling from him either. And maybe it is. And if it is, my opinion completely changes. I'm not sure if he's made a statement about this either. So maybe I didn't do deep enough research in his statement here. But yeah, I think it really was kind of a weird one for Oklahoma to kind of have Ole Miss on the schedule.